Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. 27th Annual Celebration Program. My name is John Farrier, and I will be your master of ceremony for the program today. To begin our program, we will hear a message of greetings from our pastor, the Reverend Theodore Payne IV. He will also be followed by the presentation of the colors and the national anthem in that order. Direct your attention to Reverend Payne.
Created all. My name is Theodore Payne. I serve as the pastor of the Ebenezer Church in the city of Bremerton. It is with great joy that I extend a welcome to all of you, as today we remember the life and works of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. This is our 27th annual celebration, and it is indeed a testament of hope. First, let us pause to reflect on all that we have endured, lost, and experienced over the last 12 months. The Ebenezer Church, since the beginning of its establishment, has held on to a hope that maintained the desire to provide a consistent presence in the community by being compassionate, concerned for the welfare and dignity of all humankind. As the newly appointed pastor, I commend the leadership of Ebenezer for partnering again with the Kitsap County Commissioners, civic leadership, the City of Bremerton, the Olympic College family, Bremerton-Kitsap, Access Television, and all of you, the community at large, as we continue to serve the needs of the broken and adhere to the requirements of the Great Commission. As we embark upon this new year, the members of Ebenezer and I would like to offer our sincere gratitude for another year of support and participation in this, our first virtual MLK Day celebration. We are holding on to hope as we remain committed to being a shining beacon of light within Kitsap County. We believe when the church embraces the community will embrace the church. I pray blessings on you this year, and I hope to see you soon.
Whose stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, o'er the ramparts we watched, were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
Thank you very much for Pastor Payne's greetings to everyone this morning. Also, the color guard for the colors this morning also. As we follow along our program this morning, the next item on the program will be the invocation by Elder Floyd Houston, the pastor of Emmanuel Apostolic Church in Bremerton, Washington,
Okay, but the
and
picture
followed by him.
of the person walking out said didn't look like her.
Followed by him.
I'm listening to this.
Yeah, okay, yeah, kind of, yeah.
That's Katie.
Would someone,
Okay,
would you
maybe.
please mute your phone? Thank you. Again, we'll have the invocation by Reverend Elder Floyd Houston, a pastor of Emmanuel Apostolic Church, followed by the occasion from Evangelist Alethea Douglas from Ebenezer AME Church. In that order, please.
Let us bow our heads. Lord, today, as we remember Reverend Martin Luther King Jr.'s struggle for equality, justice, and dignity of the African American that inspired so many other reforms, movements that seek to highlight the plight of the oppressed in our society. I pray that those who are in civil and religious authority be reminded that we have been created in your image and that there is an inherent responsibility that each of us have that calls for the uplifting of every man, woman, young and old, blacks, whites, Native Americans, Asian Americans, Island Pacificers, all who make up this community. Father, I pray that your spirit remind all of us that you did not show partiality in regards to nationality, race, equality, and gender. And to do so was against your greatest commandment to love one another. I pray that this community will not be complicit to injustice by being silent, but that it can raise up with a prophetic voice that speaks truth and power and advance the values of your kingdom. Lord, remember our nation today and all that is transpiring. Give those that are in leadership the courage to stand. And Lord, we'll magnify you for it. I pray these things in your name, in our blessed Redeemer, Jesus Christ. Amen.
We are here today by Zoom, Facebook, and telephone connections to celebrate the life, achievements, and legacy of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. We have come to reflect on his impact to our nation and the world. As the turmoil of 2020 has closed, we have a new year of challenges facing us. COVID-19, vaccine distribution, unemployment, evictions, homelessness, mental health issues, education deficiencies, all with the underlying struggle of equal access to quality of life. We still need Dr. King's inspiration and encouragement to join in unity against continued injustice happening to all people, no matter what race, religion, creed, or gender. Dr. King was the drum major who rallied us to understand the difficulties, trials, and resistance to nonviolent protest. The years of conflict, determination, and perseverance led to revisions on voting rights, equal access to housing, and the end of Jim Crow laws, which shackled our nation's growth as one nation under God. Last year at this time, Kitsap County lost our own drum major, who demonstrated compassion for the youth and the community. Bishop Lawrence R. Robertson Sr. founder of Emmanuel Apostolic Church of Bremerton, Washington. His leadership and passion rallied community support for the building of the Marvin Williams Recreation Center, a 20,000 square foot building, which opened in 2018 with a gym and meeting rooms as a safe place for community interactions. Bishop Robinson joins Dr. King's legacy of seeing a need and responding to resolve it. So let the celebration open your hearts and minds for renewed commitment and energize our love for justice and humankind, as Dr. King taught us.
We thank Elder Houston for the prayer and Evangelist Douglas for the occasion. We will now follow the program with the Black National Anthem sung by the Martin Luther King Choir, followed by the Holy Trinity Dance Troupe. The dance troupe will be introduced by the Holy Trinity Troop leader, Miss Carol Alcomo. In that order, please.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening sky.
Let it
resound.
Let it resound.
Loud as the rolling sea.
I like this part right here. Come on.
Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun. Let us march on.
Let us march on.
Till victory is won.
Now we add a little something to it. Just to encourage you. We're gonna take it to church later. Let's go.
We'll keep marching right until the victory is won.
To all my brothers out there.
Hold your head up, brother, till the victory is won.
To all my sisters in the struggle.
Keep believing, sister, till the victory is won.
Till that day.
Till that day comes.
Hey.
Let us march on.
To victory.
Till victory is won.
We are dancing with passion and just dancing one of the popular songs in the Philippines. We are passionate people who enjoy romantics and art and music influenced by the Spaniards. So this song is called Beanie Beanie, which is means lady or lady of grace. This man is dreaming about this lady. He has true love for her. The candle for effect. His love for her is pure love. This is all in his dream.
Panaginip ng katahanga tila itong pag-iisip.
isip ko. Ang katulad mo raw ay birhen sa abang hagdan ng punong pag-ibig. Okay ganda, okay ganda, magaling sa'yo.
He has love to offer her.
Okay ganda, okay ganda, magaling sa'yo. Ala-ala at isip at pagod sa'yo'y binigay ko raw. Bini-bini ang aking dalangin, dasal dininig mo raw. Wika mo raw ay ingatan ka, magpakailanman ang purong pag-ibig. Okay ganda, okay ganda, magaling sa'yo. Okay ganda, okay ganda, magaling sa'yo. Sa aking tanong, magkatotoo kaya? Sagot mo, para lang sinadya. Pagsapit ng magandang umaga, ako'y pumalikwas-di. Panaginip, naglahot na tunaw, ngunit naran ka pa rin. Para luman, ikaw ay akin, sa bisa ng lakas ng purong pag-ibig. Okay ganda, okay ganda, magaling sa'yo. Okay ganda,
He realizes he's all in a dream, but he still feels beautiful and he still has his love and he feels warm.
okay ganda, okay ganda, magaling sa'yo. Okay ganda, okay ganda, magaling sa'yo.
We thank the Holy Trinity Dance Troupe for that presentation. Next on our program will be proclamations and greetings from the Kitsap County Commissioner, Commissioner Robert Gelder, the Mayor of the City of Bremerton, Mayor Greg Wheeler, the Mayor of Paulsbo, Mayor Rebecca Erickson, and the Mayor of Bainbridge Island, Councilpersons Brenda Fauntleroy Johnson. In that order, please.
So hello, I'm Commissioner Rob Gelder, and on behalf of the Kitsap Board of County Commissioners, I extend our greetings and thanks to the organizers of the 27th Annual Dr. Martin Luther King Jr Community Celebration for 2021. I'd like to briefly share our proclamation that we passed on the 11th of this month. Whereas Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. devoted his life to advancing equality, social justice, and opportunity for all, and challenged all Americans to participate in the never-ending work of building a more perfect union. And whereas Dr. King's teachings can continue to guide and inspire us in addressing challenges in our communities, and whereas the King Holiday and Service Act, enacted in 1994, designated the King Holiday as a national day of volunteer service and charged the Corporation for National and Community Service with leading this effort. And whereas in 1994, millions of Americans have been, since 1994, millions of Americans have been inspired by the life and work of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. to serve their neighbors and communities on the King Holiday. And whereas serving on the King Holiday is an appropriate way to honor Dr. King, meet local and national needs, bring our citizens together, and strengthen our communities and nation. And whereas the King Day of Service is the only federal holiday commemorated as a national day of service and offers an opportunity for Americans to give back to their communities on the holiday and make an ongoing commitment to service throughout the year. And whereas the Kitsap County Board of Commissioners joins citizens and communities across the country in commemorating the contributions and teachings of Dr. King, and now therefore the Kitsap County Board of Commissioners do hereby proclaim Monday, January 18th, 2021 as Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day, adopted this 11th day of January 2021. In this time of COVID pandemic and recognizing the needs to keep our friends and community safe, it is heartening to know that we can still take the time to reflect and remember, and more importantly, to engage. Our celebration of the legacy of Dr. King is even more poignant this year, especially considering all that has happened since January of 2020, right up to and including the first week of this year and the attack on the US Capitol. But despite the pandemic, our community has come together to engage in dialogue, challenge the status quo, sow the seeds of hope, and pave the way to a future that honors equity, diversity, and inclusion. And it's a future that many of us have seen for years, yet others have denied. But we each play an important role in defining what our collective future holds. And it's my sincere hope that together we can be the catalysts to open the many eyes, minds, and hearts of those around us. Thank you for all that you do and for being part of the program today.
And, greetings everyone from the city of Bremerton. And as always, it's an honor to be here and to give brief remarks and just to reaffirm my commitment and the city of Bremerton's commitment to continue as a partner in the trenches for equality and justice for all. As everybody has said so eloquently leading up to my quick remarks, we've been through some unprecedented and trying times, and we have more to do, and we have more work to do this new year. And we're obviously entering times that are we can't predict what's going to happen. All we can do, though, is control our own actions here locally and stay together as we have done, and just continue to stay together. So my proclamation reads, whereas Martin Luther King Jr. during his career brought a new and higher dimension of dignity to the Black experience and accumulated political power for Blacks beyond any they had possessed in their history in the United States. And whereas from 1955, as leader of the Montgomery Improvement Association, which organized a boycott of segregated public transportation, he set the tone for the entire nonviolent movement, protest with a creative weapon of love. And whereas through his march on Washington and the I Have a Dream speech, he reached out to a national and worldwide audience and was recognized by people from all walks of life as the conscience of an entire nation. And whereas he was the youngest man ever to be awarded the Nobel Peace Prize when he received it in 1964, and termed the award a profound recognition of the need to overcome oppression without resorting to violence. And whereas he stands as a rare individual espousing an extremely difficult philosophy who armed his people with dignity and self-respect and served as the catalyst for significant and permanent social changes. Now, therefore, I, Greg Wheeler, Mayor of the City of Bremerton, do hereby proclaim Monday, January 18th, 2021, as Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day in the City of Bremerton, and I invite all citizens to join me in honoring his memory and his achievements. Signed this 6th day of January 2021, Greg Wheeler, Mayor of City of Bremerton.
First of all, I'd like to say thank you to everyone here that has been involved putting this group together. It is not an easy thing to do from a technological standpoint to gather everyone together like this. And I know a lot of work was done, and I want to say thank you. Second of all, I'd like to call your attention to this wonderful brochure that was printed and is available via link. Beautiful things in it. And the first thing I'd like to do is just say a couple of things that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said. The hope of a secure and livable world lies with the disciplined nonconformists who are dedicated to justice, peace, and brotherhood. Another one, hatred paralyzes life. Love releases it. Hatred confuses life. Love harmonizes it. Hatred darkens life. Love illuminates it. The power of Martin Luther King's words just simply can't be overshadowed in time. So with that, I would like to share the proclamation from the city of Paulsbo. I'd also like to recognize Council Member Andrew Phillips and Council Member Ed Stern, who are on this Zoom call with me. This is from the city of Paulsbo. Whereas Martin Luther King Jr., born on January 15, 1929, was destined to make our world a greater and more noble place, dedicated his life to ending the injustice of racism and gracing the world with his vision of a land guided by love instead of hatred and by acceptance instead of intolerance. And whereas on August 28, 1963, Dr. King described his goals most eloquently in his famous I Have a Dream speech at the historic Civil Rights March on Washington, challenging us with his unparalleled commitment to justice and nonviolence to look deeply within ourselves to find the roots of racism. And whereas in 1968, the many people, both Black and white, who had worked with him so hard for peace and civil rights were shocked and angered when Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated at the age of 39. And whereas throughout his all too brief life, Dr. King often confronted powerful and even violent opposition, sacrificing his liberty, his personal safety, and ultimately his life for the cause of freedom. Now, therefore, I, Rebecca Erickson, Mayor of the City of Paulsbo, Washington, do hereby proclaim Monday, January 18, 2021, as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and call upon the citizens of Paulsbo and the surrounding areas to observe the occasion with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities. Dated this 6th day of January 2021, Rebecca Erickson, Mayor. And one further note, love one another. That's all it really takes. Just love one another. Thank you.
Yes, hello. My name is Brenda Fantroy Johnson, and I am representing the city of Bainbridge Island. It's an honor and a privilege to be here. I am Bainbridge Island's newest council member and first African-American to become a council member, and I'm here today to share with you Bainbridge Island's proclamation. A proclamation by the City Council of the City of Bainbridge Island, Washington, recognizing Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day on January 18th, 2021. Whereas the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who was born on January 15th, 1929, dedicated his life to promoting peace, freedom, equality, and justice for all through nonviolent means. And whereas federal and state legislation has recognized Dr. King's legacy as one of America's outstanding civil rights leaders by adopting his birth date as a national event on the third Monday of January. And whereas on August 28th, 1963, Dr. King, as part of the March on Washington, delivered a historic speech at the Lincoln Memorial, which called for an end to racism in the United States. And whereas Dr. King and the Civil Rights Movement helped change public policy from segregation to integration, resulting in the repeal of the post-Reconstruction era state laws mandating racial segregation in the South, known as the Jim Crow laws, thereby leading to the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Voting Rights Act of 1965, and other anti-discrimination laws aimed at ending economic, legal, and social segregation in America. And whereas Dr. King and the Civil Rights Movement helped change policy from legal and socially acceptable discrimination and segregation to an open and accessible policy of racial integration, leading to equal participation and access to primary and higher education, housing, employment, transportation, federal, state, and local governmental elections, and other aspects of public policy relating to human rights. And whereas Dr. King stated in his speech, I say to you today, my friends, even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream that one day this nation will rise up, live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. And whereas Dr. King continued to state in his speech, this will be the day when all God's children will be able to sing with new meaning. My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride. From every mountainside, let freedom ring. And if America is to be a great nation, this must become true. And whereas Dr. King believed that service was the soul's highest purpose, and this was the path to happiness, greatness, and God. And whereas Dr. King once said, life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? Americans across the country will answer that question by coming together to honor Dr. King, by helping their neighbors and communities through thousands of service projects spread across all 50 states. And whereas Bainbridge Island residents are encouraged to observe the holiday, not only by reflecting on Dr. King's legacy, but also by actively serving others. And whereas national and international events teach us the unfortunate lesson that the age of violence and hatred has not passed, and that now, as much as at any time, Dr. King's message of nonviolence should be celebrated. Now, therefore, in the name of our Mayor, Risham Nasir, Mayor of City of Bainbridge Island, on behalf of the City Council, do I hereby proclaim Monday, January 18th, 2021, as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day in the city of Bainbridge Island, Washington, in recognition of his birth, life, and death, and ask everyone to celebrate this day by continuing to live Dr. King's dream daily, respecting all others, regardless of their race, creed, or color. Signed this 12th day of January, 2021, Risham Nasir, Mayor, Bainbridge Island. Thank you.
We thank all the mayors for their greetings and proclamations. I also would like to announce this time the mayor of Paulsbo had showed the souvenir journal that we put together for this year's event. If you go to chat, there is a web page where you might be able to see that particular book if you don't already have it. Next on our program is a musical selection from the Martin Luther King Community Choir.
Jesus is the answer for the world today. instructions of the old past in the place you every day. This one thing I do know, Jesus is the way. Jesus is the answer for the world today. Above him there's no other. Jesus is the way. Jesus is the answer for the world today. Above him there's no other. Jesus is the way. I know you've got mountains that you don't think you can climb. I know you've seen some dark days when it looked like the sun wasn't gonna shine. But let me tell you this one thing, the word of God is true. If he said it, you can believe it, he'll surely do it for you. Jesus is the answer. For the world today. Above him there's no other. He's the only way. Jesus is the answer. For the world today. Above him there's no other. Jesus is the way. Jesus is the answer. Jesus is the answer. The world today. Above him there's no other. He's the only way. Jesus is the answer. Today. Above him there's no other. Jesus is the way. Jesus is the way. Jesus is the way. Jesus is the way. Jesus is the way.
Thank you so very much for the song for the Martin Luther King Choir. It seems that every time I hear that song, it gets better and better and better. So job well done, Martin Luther King Choir. Next on our program, we'll continue to follow with our proclamation and greetings. And again, we'd like to have you come on in this particular order. The mayor of the city of Port Orchard, Mayor Robert Puntusu, the Bremerton African American Ministerial Alliance, Reverend Frankie Coleman, the Bremerton branch NAACP, Ms. Tracy Flood, the president, followed by the Olympic College president, Dr. Marty Cavalucci. In that order, please.
Morning, and thank you for allowing me to participate in the 27th annual Dr. Martin Luther King Celebration. My proclamation for the city of Port Orchard, the city of Port Orchard joins Ebenezer African Methodist Episcopal Church in its 27th annual day observing the life and legacy of the late Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And whereas this year it is a great opportunity for us to recognize all the churches, service clubs, nonprofits, and civic organizations that work every day to unite Port Orchard residents. Whereas this is a great opportunity for us to celebrate Reverend King's commitment to humanity, community, nonviolence, justice, education, and service. Whereas Dr. Martin Luther King had a dream, and we should take this opportunity to confirm his dream that has been imprinted permanently in our hearts. Whereas we will faithfully confirm that his dream is still alive when we love and respect one another and show that love with every selfless act we undertake as a community. And whereas Dr. King has taught us that all people we encounter should be treated with faith, hope, and charity. Whereas Dr. Martin Luther King asked us, what are you doing for others? Port Orchard residents will have a long and impressive list of successes. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Robert Putansu, Mayor of the City of Port Orchard, do hereby proclaim January 18th, 2021 is Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day of Celebration in the City of Port Orchard, and urge citizens to honor the memory of Dr. King by putting his teachings into action, by finding ways to give back to the community on this day and throughout the year. And I wish you all well in these challenging times. Thank you.
My name is Pastor Frankie Coleman. I want to begin, first of all, bring you greetings from the Bremerton African American Ministers Alliance here in the city of Bremerton. I want to begin by saying thank you so very much to all of you who have joined in and participating in this MLK Day. Thank you for your commitment and your steadfastness for togetherness and unity. Thank you so very much. And I think the song the choir just sang said it all. I believe that Jesus is the answer for the world today. And besides him, there is no other. There's no other way. So thank you all for being on here today from the Bama organization. So as we continue to fight for equality, all of us continue to be in this fight together throughout the land. And I thought about the times in which we live, and can only imagine what Dr. King was going through, because there was times like this that we're living in now, that he lived and died in times like this. Of course, now we're dealing with the pandemic. We're still dealing with protests, civil unrest, young black men being killed at the hand of police officers, just having completed a national election in November 2020, and now an insurrection in January 2021. And I thought about the words of Dr. King and some of the sayings that he had. I thought about one of the last books that I think Dr. King had. It's called Where Do We Go From Here? Chaos or Community? And I think the question is still unanswered. And the question was, where do we go? And so I think the most important word in that question is we. You know, who are the we? I think we have to figure out who is the we. And until we figure that out, it's very hard to tell where will we go. But I just believe that it's going to take all of us fighting together, standing strong in unity, which Dr. King fought so hard for. And I close with some of the words that Dr. King stated, and I think they are so relevant for times like this, because I think his words that were spoken back then, it fits our time today. It says, darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about the things that matter. The time is always right to do what is right. I want to say, continue to keep up the fight. It's going to take all of us. We won't be silent. We won't stop. Just continue to fight. Continue to do what is right. And it's always right to do what is right. Thank you so very much to the Ebenezer Church, Brother JD. Thank you so very much. Continue to keep up the good work. Continue to keep up the fight. God bless you and God keep you. Thank you.
Good morning to all the dignitaries on the panel today and to the virtual community. In 2020, we've seen struggles and we've seen hope. And today's MLK event is entitled A Testament of Hope. I am the president of the NAACP Unit 1134 at Tracy Flood, the oldest civil rights organization known formerly as the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. This organization, this great civil rights organization, was established in 1909, a year after the 1908 Springfield race riots. Some of you may not be familiar with the Springfield race riots, but for those of you who are, you know how significant this is in history. And for those of you who don't, this was a time in which about a mob of 5,000 whites attacked Black residents in Springfield, Illinois. And we look at today. Today, I commend you with, again, as always, a call to action. Dr. King's Day is known as a day of service, a call to action. The work of the NAACP began with anti-lynching, segregation, and voting. All of these things significant. So let's take a little look at history so that you can understand what's transpired through these struggles. And many struggles still exist, just in a different form. But first, let's acknowledge, in the last year, we've lost some great leaders, trailblazers, C.T. Vivian, John Lewis, and locally in Washington State, a champion, Judge Charles V. Johnson, who's a retired judge for McKean County Branch, former president of the Seattle chapter of the NAACP, as well as the State Area Conference, as well as a member of the National Board of the NAACP. Near and dear to me as a mentor early on. They will be missed, but they've given us definitely a great legacy to follow. The 14th Amendment, the 15th Amendment, all of those things making way for the right to vote. This is significant in understanding where we are today and what has transpired over the last several months. But the 14th and the 15th Amendment didn't fix everything. The NAACP went on to fight in court in the Win v. United States decision in 1915, where the grandfather clause was seen as unconstitutional. You said, what is the grandfather clause? The grandfather clause is when it was created where states kept Blacks from voting through what was known as to keep descendants of slaves out of elections. The clause said you could not vote unless your grandfather had the right to vote. Just a little lesson. But Dr. King grew up in Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta, Georgia. When he went to seminary, he was there working under his father, King Sr., and his mother, Alberta, who was the minister of music. And you say, this is just a little history, because the significance of Ebenezer Baptist Church is significant to what transpired in the Georgia elections for the Senate. But we look at Dr. King's legacy and what happened in 1964. The Civil Rights Act was passed. In 1965, the Voting Rights was passed, because even though back in 1915, the Supreme Court struck down that provision, there were still challenges, real challenges. And King said in a speech, one of his early speeches where he pastored at the Dexter Baptist Church in Alabama, entitled, "I Am a Man." And in that sermon speech, he said some very significant things that resonate to today's struggles. Those things started with, Yet man is not made to dwell in the valley of sin and evil. Man is made for that which is high and noble. And he said, when I see how we fight vicious wars and destroy human life on bloody battlefields, I find myself saying, man is not made for that. When I see how we live our lives in selfishness and hate, again, I say, man is not meant for that. When I see how often we throw away the precious lives that God has given us through riotous living, again, I say, man is not made for that. And then we fast forward to Memphis, the speech that is well known for his last speech of, I've been to the mountaintop. And it ends with, my eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. But there's excerpts in that that many people may not be familiar with. So I'll end with those words. And this is a conversation in this speech in Memphis. This conversation King is having with God. And the question of choice. King is telling us he would choose the 20th century after going through everything in time and giving a timeline and all the great things in history that are there. But he said, I choose the 20th century. And many think of that as a strange statement to make because the world was all messed up and is all messed up, as he put it. The nation is sick. Trouble is in the land, confusion all around. So that's a strange statement. But he says, but I know somehow that only when it is dark enough can you see the stars. And I see God's working in this period. And the period of the 20th century, in a way, again, was strange. And he said, something is happening in our world. The masses are rising up from everywhere assembled today, whether it's Johannesburg, South Africa, New York City, Atlanta, Georgia, Jacksonville, Mississippi, Memphis, Tennessee, wherever it may be. The cry is the same. We want to be free. So to tie that into the significant things that have transpired, the election in Georgia, I say to you as advocates today, continuing in this legacy, to those that have died for civil rights, voting rights, and human rights, what side of history will you be on? Thank you.
Good morning. On behalf of Olympic College, thank you all for being here today and for the opportunity to participate in the 27th annual celebration of the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I would like to welcome Pastor Payne, or Pastor P as he likes to be called. Thank you very much for being here, and I look forward to getting to know you. I would also like to acknowledge the two previous speakers, both of whom have close ties to Olympic College. Tracy Flood is a longtime member of the Olympic College Foundation Board of Directors and a 1992 graduate of Olympic College. And Reverend Dr. Frankie L. Coleman, who was appointed to the Olympic College Board of Trustees this past year. Thank you both for all that you do to serve this community and Olympic College. I would also like to recognize the Olympic College Vice President for Equity and Inclusion, Cheryl L. Nunez, who for the past 5 years has worked tirelessly to advance the mission of Olympic College by centering equity in our programs and practices. I'm excited to share news with you about our forthcoming diversity and social justice graduation requirement beginning fall of 2021 for all newly admitted students pursuing an associate transfer degree. These students will be required to complete at least 5 credits in DSJ approved courses with topics such as race, class, gender, sexuality, ability, and sustainability through the lenses of social difference, systems of power, and equity. I can't say enough about the dedicated faculty members who brought this to fruition. At Olympic College, faculty and staff alike embrace our role in cultivating the kind of leadership in our graduates that sows connections, not division, that leads others to higher ground, not into chaos, that promotes critical thinking, not merely reaction, that casts light on bleak realities of our time and the promise of a better tomorrow. Nothing could be more important to our community and our nation. Thank you.
Again, we thank those who have given greetings and proclamations. We thank the Port Orchard Mayor, Bama, the Bremerton branch NAACP, and the president of Olympic College. Next on our program is the introduction of the guest speaker. And before I do that, I would just like to say again that if you want to see the Souvenir Journal booklet, information about the program is in chat. So you take that opportunity to go over chat to view those items. Our guest speaker today is the Reverend Shirley Lytell. Shirley Lytell is an author, ordained minister, licensed counselor, and relationship expert. She is a third-generation pastor. Reverend Lytell has worked in ministry for over 35 years and 11 years in the counseling field. Reverend Lytell graduated from Phoenix Seminary with a master's in divinity with a concentration in counseling and family. She holds an undergraduate degree in business management. She completed a postmaster's certification in clinical pastoral counseling through Seattle University. She is a certified relationship therapist through Gotham Institute and a sex addiction and partner trauma therapist through the International Institute for Trauma and Addiction Professionals. She is a licensed mental health counselor within the state of Washington and Arizona with a private practice. The practice is named Living with Purpose Counseling, and it's located in Bellevue, Washington. And then it focuses on anxiety, depression, and couples counseling. Prior to transitioning to the counseling field, Shirley spent 18 years in senior management in the accounting field. She balances her time and attention between her counseling practice while supporting pastors in ministry. She develops and facilitates relationships and communication workshops for churches and corporations, both nationally and international. You can find her training materials at www.setmestraight.com. I'll say that again, www.setmestraight.com. Reverend Shirley, as she is affectionately referred to, is best known for her practical and no-nonsense approach. She addresses real-world issues that individuals face with truth and compassion. Shirley is happily married to Daryl Lytell, and they have been married for 39 years. After the next selection from the Martin Luther King Choir, the voice you will be hearing will be that of our guest speaker, the Reverend Shirley Lytell.
him about his love as you go. Tell the world 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 about Jesus. Tell them about his love. Tell the world about Jesus. Tell them about his love. Tell the world about Jesus. Tell them about his love. Tell the world about Jesus. Tell them about his love as you go. Tell the world 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 as you go. Tell the as you go, tell the world. As you go, tell the world. As you go, tell the world about Jesus. Tell them about his love. Tell the world about Jesus. Tell them about his love. Tell the world about Jesus. Tell them about his love. Tell the world about Jesus. Tell them about his love as you go. Tell the world 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 as you go.
Well, greetings, everyone. That was such a beautiful song. We are grateful. We're thankful for this day. I thank Pastor Payne and Sister Charlie Lee for actually having me on their minds and considering me for this wonderful opportunity. Greetings to all of you. Thank you so much again for all the mayors and the dignitaries that are online. It's a troublesome time, but it's also a powerful time for us to show up in a way that shows the world that we matter, that we care, that those that are struggling in and out of season, that we're there for them. Because though King was so caring about unity and togetherness, he was also at the core, he was a pastor. And so it's wonderful to be in this moment, in this place. And so the main theme today is a testament of hope. And so Dr. King's quote is, "Change does not roll in on the wheels of inevitability, but it comes through continual struggle." And so I thought about the struggles that we are standing in right now. Imagine that a riot is showing up on the Capitol, and there's a clear disparity between how those rioters were treated and the Black Lives Matter individuals that were protesting. Here comes another scene. You've got almost 400,000 people that are dying from a disease that we can't seem to control, that we don't even to some degree even know where it came from. And so that in itself is problematic. You've got nursing staff, you've got doctors that are overwhelmed and literally struggling in their trying to keep themselves together while they're helping individuals that are sick. And then last but not least, the Center of Disease and Control and Prevention posted that over 40% of Americans right now are struggling with mental health issues due to the pandemic running out of control. And so I realize that we're struggling with reconciling what's going on in our world. And when you don't have reconciliation, you can't have restoration. We can't restore the places where we're broken if we don't recognize that we actually have a problem. So today, what I want to talk to you about is the concept of change. Change. What is it going to take to have real change? Imagine back then, Martin Luther King was trying to get change to happen, and we're still struggling with it today. It's as if you don't measure what's happened in your history, you're going to repeat it. And so I'd like to talk to you from the concept how we need to address the struggle and then embrace our hope so that we can have change. Because as a theologian and as a counselor, I have seen the struggles that people are having with depression, anxiety, how domestic violence has increased so significantly that we can't even keep count. You know why? Because they're living with the individual that's oppressing them. So let's get started a little bit. It says that the foundation of our hope really should be in how we stand tall and brave, and that we keep our eye on how we stand in the gap for other people. Because if we don't measure that hope, if we don't go through the valley of the shadow of death and not fear evil, we will run into walls of desperation. We will run into challenges of where should we be? How should we show up? Can we be that strong person that's going to stand in the gap for other people? So you see, change doesn't just happen. It is a process. Change has to be intentional. Change has to be intentional, just like your hope has to be intentional. It's just going to we need change so that we can have a healing, so that we can move in the places where we're broken. And if we don't spend time reconciling where we are broken, then how do you know what spots, what places we need healing? Yes, we definitely have issues, but right now we've made those issues so big, we feel like us as an individual can't make a difference. And I'm calling that out today. I'm saying each and every one of us needs to stand on where we're struggling, where we place our hope in, so that we can move in with change, with progress, so that we can grow up in a way that our children and our children's children can see us in a manner that says, yes, we made a difference. So let's start off with the first thing. If we're going to make change, we need to confront our struggle. And struggle says that in the middle of tension, we change. In the middle of our struggle, we find the strength to move forward. For many, we realize that either our struggles make us better or we actually become extremely bitter. We've seen time after time individuals on TV where they're bitter because their struggle is so great, they haven't even given themselves time to recognize, you know what? this struggle actually starts with me. It doesn't start outside. This is what the system is doing. These are what the people are doing. What are you doing? How are you making a difference today? And yes, we do have challenges. We've got systemic racism. We've got homelessness. We've got people that are sick and they have no insurance. We've got struggles. The question is, what are you going to do about it? How are you going to stand tall? How are you going to be part of the answer instead of part of the problem? Yes, we have struggles. We're struggling with members dying in hospitals by themselves because COVID is so rapid that they won't even allow their family members to see them. And yes, there's a difference between saying bye to someone on an iPad and holding someone's hand when they're passing away. Yes, we're struggling with working too much because we're burnt out. Believe it or not, companies are getting more work out of people than less. You know why? Because our iPads, our phones, all of our technology is sitting right next to us. And so you've got bosses that have the audacity to send an email at 9:30 at night. And by the way, their employee is working. Their employee is up. So their phone is right there and they're answering it. We haven't figured out how to struggle with boundaries. Yes, boundaries are what keep us safe. They don't keep the bad people out. What it says is that I have enough boundary in my life to where I have time for God, I have time for work, and I have time for family. And right now we've lost stability. We don't have boundaries. So we're struggling. And so a lot of people are actually experiencing burnout. They've worked so much, so hard, that they don't know whether it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. They have lost their ability to see themselves beyond their jobs or beyond the stresses of their children or beyond the casualties at times of friends and family passing away. And so I'm saying that struggle in the tension, if you allow it to expand you, if you allow it to give it time so that you can figure out where you need to put boundaries in your life, how you need to engage with your family and your friends so that you're not sitting there in a space where the world is regulating you, you're regulating the world. You know, we have to learn to develop a sense of courage. And courage says that we do things while we're afraid. Courage is doing something that allows you to be a better human being in the moment. Courage stands up against racism. Courage confronts privilege. And let me say a little bit about that whole concept of privilege. Believe it or not, privilege says that I am functioning without impediments and I'm functioning without inconveniences. So think about someone that is struggling with a wheelchair trying to get to their next destination. They've got impediments that get in their way, and they've got inconveniences that get in their way. So believe it or not, many of us walk in some level of privilege. But as it relates to racism, there's a clear have and have not. And it's time that we begin to call it out. It's time that we recognize that everybody is not as privileged as everyone thinks they are, right? So that when I go to a job, I may struggle because I don't have that privilege, that there is impediments in the way, that there are inconveniences in the way, including just my name, that it could give you the indication that maybe I'm not nearly as intelligent. So see, racism can show up in so many subtle and mysterious ways that if we're not ready to call it out, God help us, we're going to repeat the very same things that our parents and our grandparents experienced in previous time. So during my postgraduate work, it was kind of funny because you think, oh, well, you know, the more educated you get, the better we would become at how we treat one another. But I actually had a professor in multicultural class ask me this question: what does it really mean to be an angry Black woman? Now, I had to stop myself and I had to have the courage, and I mean the courage not to say something that I really wanted to say. But in the end, I let her know that you can't lower a group of people by their race and their color so that you can define them by moments when they're trying to cry out for something that's not fair. And believe it or not, in that moment, I realized that there are times that we need to have the courage to stand up to people that are making statements that do not show honor, respect, and value for human beings. I realized in that moment that each of us have an opportunity to stand tall and be courageous. And I realized that I could be categorized just by my color, just by my race. And if I weren't willing to stand up and stand for something stronger than myself, that this idea, this concept of the angry Black woman was going to continue. So you see, each of us have an opportunity to stand in the gap for one another. Now, let's be honest. Are there times when one person out of 30, I'm in a classroom of 30 people, I'm the only African-American woman there. Do I have to represent the race? Sure, I do. But we've lived that way. None of this stuff that's happening in the world today is new for us. It may be new for you. It may be that maybe you closed your eyes to some of the things that are happening in the world. Well, now it's time for you to open them. Now it's time for you to step into the whole idea of hope. And hope says this. Hope says that when we're in the middle of a hard situation, that we can see a better time, that we can see a better future. Hope says we can keep hope alive if each one of us reach for someone else. Think of hope as this idea of battling victim mentality. A victim mentality says, that there's nothing I can do about this situation. I don't have any opportunities to walk in my truth, and that there's no way anyone is going to understand or appreciate my trauma. Well, let me be the first to tell you that when you step into your hope, you begin to battle that whole issue of I'm a victim. No, I'm going to have victory in my day to day. You know why? Because I know that I have options. So for some people, they've learned that they don't have options. They get into this, what we call in psychology, this learned hopelessness, that even when they see something better in their lives, they don't trust it. They feel like they don't have options. Well, for many of us, we may be sitting in that sense of hopelessness. We may feel that these situations aren't going to get better. But see, there's a better day coming because more and more of us, Black, white, regardless of our color, we're standing up and we're saying it's time out. We need to step into hope, just like we step into faith. We need to put our hope in what is stronger and bigger and better than ourselves. You know, my grandma would say that my hope is built on nothing less than Jesus Christ and his righteousness. We've got to step out of it is just me and to how are we going to move. I started this speech out in, let's talk about what you're going to do. Well, now let's talk about what we're going to do as a body, what we believe in our hearts and mind we were called to do. How we step into purpose speaks about hope. Because see, I hope that at some point you're not going to just judge me by the color of my skin, but by the content of my character. I want us to stand in hope that before you start trying to figure out, is a little Black boy more fearful when he's 3, when he's 5, when he's 12? When does he become a threat? When he's 25? There was a statistic on CNN that said that, believe it or not, one Black child in 6 believe that they're going to be shot and killed by a police officer. Imagine that you can't even consider a police officer being your hope. We need change. We need to hope for a better situation. But then we also need to get off of our knees, and we need to do something after we finish praying. We need to do something about why our children don't feel safe at school. We need to do something that some of our Black men and women don't feel safe going to the grocery store, because someone's going to tell them to rip their masks off because maybe they're going to rob the store, when actually masks are required for every place just about that we go into. So believe it or not, the double standards, even in the pandemic, are showing up with people of color. The disparity is real. It can no longer be said that there's no such thing as racism when we're dealing with racism each and every day. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. You know why? Because that shadow in itself is fear, and I rebuke that at the core, and I stand against it. And when we begin to step into the things that cause us to be fearful, believe it or not, they become less afraid, because you take the sting off of them. I will no longer sit there and be concerned whether or not the waiter or the waitress is taking exorbitantly long time to get our meal to us. You know why? Because I have options. I have options to say, hey, I need to speak to your manager, or hey, you know what? We may need to talk about the level of service that I'm receiving, or hey, here's a tip for you. You might need to find another profession, because the one you're working in right now is not really quite working for you or for me. But believe it or not, we can decide how we place our hope. We can place our hope in things becoming better. We can place our hope in God. We can place our hope in the humanity of individuals that are willing to do bigger and better things of where we are now. Dr. King said that there comes a time when we must take a position that's neither safe, nor political, nor popular, but he must take it because his conscience tells him it's right. At some point, we need to be able to tell our conscience that what we're doing is right, that standing up for other people that can't stand up for themselves is right, that we must keep hope alive. We can't lose our hope, because when you lose your hope, you lose your ability to fight. And so we must stand in hope so that we can continue to fight for those things that are right and are pure and that are purposeful for our humanity and for our environments to grow. So you see, we need a struggle plus that hope to equal change. The struggle of our experiences, the hope of doing things better and bigger and looking for better and bigger things will cause change. Because again, either that change will cause you to be better or you will become extremely bitter. Change says our communities will combat racism, sexism, ageism. Change says that we can cause companies who are struggling with diversity inclusion to not only hire a person of color, but to challenge the environment in which that person will be working in. We're time out for having token people in companies where you're not changing the culture. We're time out for trying to sit in places because we're glad to have a job when that job is killing us every day because we're trying to get in where we fit in. We're tired of trying to assimilate because we were never called to be like everybody else. We were called to be unique, divine, authentic individuals that contribute to a society that needs to grow. And so as we step in to this change agent, we all become a witness for how God is going to use each and every one of us. So I call you out, each and every individual that's sitting here today. I know that I've gotten passionate about this because you know why? It is our passion that will move us forward. It is our passion that will keep us in the struggle. It is our passion that will cause us to hold on to hope. And as a people, we will change because we have no other choice but to change. And so I thank each and every one of you here today. I love you with the love of God. We're all called to be change agents. So when I ask the question, change, what is it going to take? It's going to take you. Thank you so much.
We thank Reverend Shirley Lytell for that outstanding message. I've been around the world a couple of times, and when I was in the military, worked for the civil service, and throughout all those travels and dealing with people, I understand one thing. And if everybody that care, if you remember that people is our most important product. If we can take care of people, things will change. So at this particular time, I want to present to Reverend Lytell a plaque that we had made up, and I zoomed it over to her while y'all was listening to her speech. It just arrived. She picked it up, and if we were allowed to zoom in on Reverend Shirley. Can we get a close up? There you go. And the plaque basically reads, thank you, Reverend Shirley Lytell, keynote speaker for the 27th annual Dr. Martin Luther King ceremony. We are grateful that you could take out the time to spend with us and bring us that outstanding message. God bless you and God keep you.
Thank you so much, everyone. I appreciate you.
Well, we're just about to come to the close. I do have a few announcements, and making these announcements, we want to also say that the program that you have witnessed this morning and been a part of, we thank the BCAT television because they are going to stream this over, broadcast it over Comcast on channel 12 and Wave Cable channel 3 on the following dates. On Wednesday, January the 20th, it will be shown at 10 a.m. in the morning and 2 p.m. in the afternoon. On Saturday, January 23rd at 9 p.m. Then again on January the 27th at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. And the last showing will be Saturday, January the 30th at 9 p.m. So we thank John over at BCAT for making those times available so that some folks that did not have a chance to participate or see our program this morning, that they will be able to view the program at a later time. Also, let us not forget that this afternoon over in Bainbridge Island, they'll be celebrating their 3rd annual Dr. Martin Luther King community celebration. And it will be from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. this afternoon, and it will be an online program. They have a lot of things going on. I have a flyer here, and it says arts, music, film, history, poetry, dance, and many more things. So if you take the time out to be able to join those for the program this afternoon. The last announcement is comes from KRC, and KRC is having what they call the 2021 Martin Luther King Hygiene Drive, and they have been collecting items for distribution to the community. And some of the items that they still may need is toothpaste, toothbrushes, shampoo, hair conditioner, brushes, combs, deodorant, chapstick, female hygiene products, toilet paper, toilet tissue, etc. So we can all make a difference by supporting that particular event, and they will be distributing those items on January the 19th and January the 20th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And they will be doing this at the Live Point Church of the Nazarene. And it's located on 2924 Sheridan Road here in Bremerton, Washington. So if you have opportunity, if you know someone that might need these items, direct them over to the Live Point Church of the Nazarene. And they will be able to pick up some of these hygiene items. Well, it's been an outstanding program. I have enjoyed being your master of ceremonies. To all our county, city officials, police chief, the sheriff department, all the judges and attorneys, pastors, community leaders, and everyone that has been in attendance on the program this morning. We thank you for joining us, and we really appreciate your attendance. So with that being said, the last item on the program is we're going to bring forward the Reverend John Weston from Silverdale United Methodist Church to give us our closing prayer. And until next year, just before we go, I need to thank also those individuals that if it wasn't for them, our program wouldn't be what it is. And of course, we thank our Ebenezer Church, Martin Luther King Committee, the Kitsap County Commissioners, the City of Bremerton, and especially Olympic College. A shout out to Sean Devine, who did a lot of backroom work for us to make this program what it was. To BCAT Television, we thank you all for your support. Reverend Weston.
Good morning, everyone, and I miss being with all of you. Greetings from Silverdale United Methodist Church. It has been 10 months since we have had our congregation together indoors for worship. We've been broadcasting every week from a portion of our living room, the parsonage we call it in the Methodist system, the house where the pastor lives. And this has been where God's been doing some great work. And so we're glad to be able to share with you today. I just want to extend a greeting to Reverend Payne. Welcome to our community. I look forward to getting to know you, and just our hearts are with you and our prayers are with your family at the passing of your mother. And just God bless you for just having the momentum and getting this all together and making this work. These broadcasts are so much work, and this has been excellent. You have done a wonderful job for all of us today. So we want to thank you for that. And I just thank you for having the privilege of being able to close this in prayer. I just miss all of you. I miss singing with the choir. And God is going to bless us. We are going to be together again. I want to leave you with the word of hope. Would you all lift up your hearts? Would you pray with me today? Oh God, we thank you. We thank you, God, for the ability to be together today, even when apart. Lord, we thank you for the sacrifice of your servant and your son, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And we thank you for the dream which you gave him, which is now shared by countless millions all around this world. Lord, we dare to believe that one day that dream will be reality. Help us, God. Our nation is broken. We are fractured. We are scared. We are angry, Lord. We lose sight of you. We ask in Jesus' name, let there be love. Let there be healing and abundance poured out on the African-American community today, God. Let there be favor in every neighborhood across this land. Let the darkness flee. Let righteousness, your righteousness, oh God, shine like a beacon, calling all of us forward. Lord, forgive us, heal us, equip us, encourage us, and use us to display your love and your justice in our land. Help us to this task. We ask in the name of Jesus, your Son. Amen and amen. God bless you and thank you.
We thank Pastor Weston for the prayer. And just before we sign off, I would like to say to Reverend Philip Ross, I thank you for an outstanding behind the scene job that you have done. Also to the Martin Luther King Committee Chairperson, Sister Lee, job well done. To all the dignitaries that participated in the program this morning, Godspeed and thank you very much.